Astro World, or Jussie Smollett, or as Dave Chappelle says, Jussie Smollett. I think that those situations are things that we sometimes have to take a closer look at. And I'm not saying that they're the same situation, obviously on opposite ends of the spectrum. Travis Scott, the concert, all of that happening. And Jussie Smollett, I feel like a lot of people kind of just held back and just wanted to see how this was going to play out. And I feel like sometimes you can be in control of canceling yourself based on how you decide to move. So I thought that maybe with his going to trial, he didn't have to really do that, personally.
Yeah, he definitely canceled himself. He lied. He just flat out lied.
And then you hired two Africans to
That's the irony.
Play white supremacists.
Well, you know what? I totally disagree with that because I feel like we're not looking deeper. I feel as people, we're trees. We're branch, leaf, fruit, root. You have to look at the root of your tree to understand why you bear the fruit that you do. For him to go to that extent, it's something deep in the roots that he needs to deal with. So we just look surface and say, oh, why would he do that? That had to be something pretty dark, pretty deep that you're dealing with, that you had to go to that extent to either express yourself, get attention. This is my cry for help. I don't think the average person will just go through that if they're totally balanced, they're in sync with self, they have a good mental state. So I think as a culture and as a people, instead of just quickly canceling somebody, let's look to why they did what they did and why is that behavior familiar that they even would do something like that. And we don't even give people that much credit. We look at surface value, you did it, we cancel, and we done. And your uncle might be the Jussie of the family. Why are you canceling him?
So just to kind of, expand on that, Andrea, do you think that in his case, for instance, because I know that, I think in my mind, it could have probably stopped a little while ago, right? He could have just said, you know what, y'all, I pushed it, and that's not really what happened, or whatever. Make your plea deal, go away quietly. But I just think the egregious part is taking it to trial.
Yeah.
And I say that you all are both from Chicago, and that's a city where Emmett Till was from. There's enough reason to not do some of the things that you're doing because certain things, in my mind, set us back. Mm-hmm. And I'm only saying it, no judgment. I'm saying this with tough love because we have got to get to a place in my mind where we can say, hey, man, don't do that. Like, and I'm also saying that because when you look at how it's kind of started to really unfold in the news, you're seeing, oh, well, Don Lemon sent you a text that said, the Chicago police don't believe you. Don Lemon didn't say nothing that wasn't just common sense. It's right. Like, bro, what are you doing? And sometimes we can be so prideful. We want to we're going to die on this hill, all because we don't want to say, hey, we took it a little too far.
Well, do you think it's being prideful or not feeling like you have a safe place to land? Because sometimes that's the problem. Sometimes you feel like it's so far gone with this cancel culture. Even if I do come back and apologize and say, you know what, I own it, I messed up, I'm still canceled. Or do I keep going with it? I'm still canceled. We live in a society today where we don't leave room for grace, mercy, and understanding. So like I said, you're either damned if you do, damned if you don't. So he sits in a position. Again, do I come forward and hopefully people will welcome me with open arms, forgive and understand, or just go ahead and get canceled? That's a hard position to be in.
And there's not really a lot of forgiveness going on.
It's not.
Unless it's your fave.
Yep.
Right? If it's your fave, it's not that big of a deal. We make excuses for them. But if it's not, it's like off with your head and that's it. I always say, don't give someone the death penalty for jaywalking. And it seems like in our society with social media, that's what they do. If they don't like you, if they're not a fan of you already, you are going to get every punishment that they can find. Let's ban all their stuff. Let's stop them from making money. Let's stop all of that. And you made a good point about it being a deeper thing, but you're right. If he sat down and gave an interview, are we going to be rolling our eyes and it's just going to be fodder for like the comedy for the stage? Yeah. We're just going to make fun of him, right?
Because then you put the person in the position to feel like you have the gun. Now I just gave you bullets to shoot me with. How do you win in that way?
Do you think Jussie can come back from this?
I don't play judge and jury, honey. I don't know. Now, he might be some straight to DVDs from now on. I don't know. Listen, I'm not going to judge that. But I think redemption, everybody should have that as an option. And right now with this cancel culture, redemption is not an option.
They don't allow room to grow.
They don't.
To make any mistakes. You have to be perfect if you're on that other side of the camera.
Very true.
So, Drea, I know clearly you have a very famous ex-husband in R. Kelly, and he was beloved and obviously now he's being met with a lot of resistance and, perhaps canceled to a certain degree. Or do you feel like cancel culture has impacted you because of some of those things dealing with him?
Oh, definitely. I've had people say that they don't want to work with me. I've had people say, you didn't say anything because you got money. You're coming forward now because you want money. There's no woman alive that you can put a price tag on. Here's the abuse, and this is how much we're going to pay you to go through it. So I kind of have to let that just roll off of my back. But I think the problem with cancel culture is there's a difference between canceling someone and making them accountable. And I think that he has to be held accountable for his crimes. But at the same time, where's the room for redemption? Because if you put someone in jail, but they're not getting counseling for the molestation they went through as a child, the illiteracy they went through, the abuse they've gone through, no one is born a monster, it's created. So if we don't get to the bottom of how to rehabilitate that person, whether they get out of jail or not, canceling them is not going to do anything for them at all. So people tend to think that my stance means that I'm somehow taking up for him or I'm backtracking on what I said. I still stand firm in my story and my truth, but I still believe at the end of the day, the only way that we get better is not just by canceling somebody. Yes, make them accountable, but also put room for redemption and also how do you make that person better?
I could see someone being critical of that answer as well. But they would say, well, if we don't cancel him, who does get canceled? What would someone have to do that would warrant for them to get canceled? What would you say? Or should it be nobody? Should everyone be, able to redeem themselves?
Again, because I think we live in a society where we don't deem the difference between accountability and being canceled. Yes, should you be accountable? Listen, if accountability means jail time, so be it. But at the same time, there has to be room for how do we make it better? How do we not repeat those cycles in our home? And again, we have to start at home. You so quick to cancel a celebrity when you got a pedophile uncle that you got come to every birthday party.
How do you feel about what your ex-husband did affecting you and people attempting to cancel you because of something you did not do?
Honestly, for a while, it was hurtful because I thought, here I am, been away from this man almost 15 years. I'm coming forward for one reason. We live in a society where we will back and rally behind one white woman's lie, but we won't stand with 30 black women's truth. And if that's not real, we wouldn't have Emmett Tills of the world, okay? So I felt me coming forward, no one's listening. No one's listening to these women. So if I use my voice, lend my platform to bring some kind of validity to the story, at least someone will pay attention. And guess what? They did. But the very thing that people want to crucify me for, nail me to the cross for, why don't she get rid of her last name? Well, let me tell you this, ladies and gentlemen, if my name was not Kelly, you would not care. Also, Ms. Jones is going through the same thing I went through and probably worse. No one's knocking on her door. Why? Because we're so obsessed with being famous, Instagram famous, YouTube famous, and if it has to do with celebrity, then we deem it important. Then we pay attention. So it shouldn't be why I kept my last name. It should be what I'm doing with this last name. Because at the end of the day, if Kelly makes 2020 follow me for a day, if it gets me on CNN, if it gets me on The View, and I can lend my platform to be a voice for the voiceless, you shouldn't be trying to cancel me. You should be trying to uplift me because I'm a black woman standing for black women when they're not being heard.